The darkest night wasn't outside. It lived in the eyes of the man who once lit our home, my father. This is a true story. A gentle push felt like a door closing on my childhood. His voice grew quiet. His shadow grew loud. One small movement from him, and the warm world I knew slipped away like a coat from my shoulders. The smile that used to reach his eyes was gone. In its place was a stare that looked past me, through me, as if I were only a faint mark on the wall. Mother held warm tea. We held our breath. The house forgot how to laugh. We moved softer, spoke much less, and waited for the sound of his boots at the door. Even the old radio in the kitchen seemed to learn our silence. It hummed low, as if afraid to be heard. I watched my younger brothers hide behind chairs when he entered, and my little sister cling to the hem of Mother's dress. I learned to count the seconds between his steps. I learned to read the weather in his eyes. We didn't know the word trauma. We only knew cold. It settled into corners, under beds, in the places where our games used to live. It crept into bedtime and stood beside us at breakfast. I wrapped my arms around the baby and told him simple stories so he would not cry. Mother's hands shook sometimes when she poured the tea, but her voice stayed gentle. She sat beside him at dusk, facing the yard, and asked soft questions she already knew he would not answer. At night he wandered, talking to someone no one else could see. He watched the road as if it were a mouth waiting to open. He said it wasn't safe here. He said the shadows were listening. We tried to be brave the way children try, by staying close and pretending the floor was solid ground. But the floor felt thin. It felt like a skin over deep water. The day it changed, the sun was pale and flat. He came in carrying dust and fear. He did not sit. He did not eat. He stood in the doorway like a warning and spoke without looking at any of us. He said, "Pack your things. We leave before dark." No why, no where. Only the order and the clock it set ticking inside our chests. Mother didn't argue. She moved. She gathered shirts, a blanket, a small pot, a comb. I folded baby clothes with shaking fingers and tried not to think about the table we would not eat at that night, the backyard tree we would not climb again. My brother lifted a sack as if this were a drill he had practiced. My sister cried into the cloth of Mother's sleeve. The baby slept on, unaware that our world was changing shape. We thought we were running from danger out there. We were walking toward the truth waiting in here. I didn't know it then, but a single object would teach us how to stand in the dark. I didn't know that one thin flame can outwork a night that thinks it will last forever. I only knew the order, the door, the road, and the sound our hearts made when we tried not to be afraid. And I knew this. Once we stepped outside, nothing would ever be simple again. The radio still sang. The curtain still danced, but the air felt heavy, like a storm deciding. Sound moved differently in our house, quieter, careful, as if even music tiptoed past the table. Morning chores became whispers. The floorboards learned to hold their breath. The clink of a spoon against a cup felt too loud, so we set things down as if the cups were sleeping. Logan gathered. He was the first to read the weather in Father's face and the way his boots dragged at the door. He rolled shirts tight, counted matches, checked the latch twice. He did it without being told, as if a list had been born in him overnight. Sophia clung. She followed Mother from room to room, clutching the skirt as if fabric could hold back an ocean. Caleb went quiet. He stared at shadows that used to be games and kept small treasures in his pocket like answers he might need later. Miles clung to my leg, walking where I walked, stopping where I stopped, his fingers pressing a promise into my skin. And baby Noah. He slept through endings, soft breath against Mother's shoulder, thumb caught on his lower lip, unbothered by the slow collapse of our known world. "Have you noticed your father?" she asked one afternoon, folding a towel that didn't really need folding. We just didn't have the words. How do you name a fear that keeps changing clothes? One day it looks like silence. The next it looks like a stare through you. We nodded. She nodded back as if we had said something wise. "He went through something," she said, and her voice did a small breaking that she fixed before we could hear it fall. "We will be patient. We will be careful." She did not say we would be safe. She knew better than to promise what she could not make with her own hands. Father's footsteps marked the evenings. First the long pause at the gate, then the scrape of the heel on the step, then the breath he took before he entered. I learned to read him in those 3 beats. Some nights he would sit with his hands open and stare at nothing. Some nights he would pace and speak to corners, warning us of things he alone could see. He slept less, ate less, blinked less. He watched the windows as if the glass might answer back. Then came the departure beat. A borrowed truck in the dusk, coughing smoke, 1 blanket, 2 pots, a comb, a Bible, and a small tin of buttons Mother would not leave behind. The rest was silence that said hurry. We moved as if time had teeth. I folded the baby's sweater, then unfolded it to smooth the sleeves, then folded it again because my hands needed to do something that felt like love. Logan lifted the sack and checked its knot. Sophia pressed her cheek into Mother's waist and didn't look up. Caleb tucked a marble into his left shoe because he said it felt like luck. Miles asked if the truck could come inside the house so we wouldn't have to step out into the dark. I told him stepping out is sometimes the only way to keep from sinking. We did not say goodbye to rooms. We did not touch the door frames the way people do when they know they are leaving forever. We told ourselves we might come back on Sunday or next month, or when Father smiled again. But the house knew. The walls held the echo of our footsteps like a memory forming in real time. The radio hummed a half song and then stopped, as if it understood that some songs should wait. When Father said, "Now," we went. Mother lifted the baby higher and met my eyes across the narrow hall. Something passed between us. Weight and trust, and an unspoken pact to stand up straight even when the wind is inside the room. We stepped onto the porch and let the door close behind us without a sound. Would leaving save us, or teach us how to stand? Broken kilns, cracked roofs, wind where windows should be. The truck coughed to a stop at the edge of the abandoned pottery works, and everything in front of us looked like yesterday's work left to harden and break. Chimneys rose like empty throats. Piles of clay sat in lumps the rain had scarred. Even the ground felt uneven, like a thought that never finished. "This is it," he said, like a guard at a gate only he could see. He scanned the road behind us, then the tree line, then the hollow mouths of the buildings, measuring dangers that lived more in his mind than in the yard. He didn't meet our eyes. He didn't need to. The way he stood told us that arguing would be like throwing pebbles at a storm. Mother's eyes mapped shelter out of ruins. She walked the nearest room first, steady and quiet, the baby on her hip, her hand brushing a wall as if touch could stitch a tear in it. She looked for a corner out of the wind, for a dry patch of floor, for anything that could hold a night together. She did not say the word home. She said, "We'll make a place." We stepped inside. Packed earth floor, crooked table, a place to put fear down. There were holes where windows had been, and the roof held more sky than it should. The air smelled of wet clay and old smoke, with a thin thread of mold that made the baby wrinkle his nose. When I walked, the dust lifted and settled again like shy birds. Logan went practical. He tapped the table's legs, checked the doorframe, and rolled his sleeves as if work alone could change the weather. He carried the sacks in 2 trips and stacked our few things against a wall that looked the least tired. Sophia stayed close to Mother, her fingers hooked in the fabric like a small anchor. Caleb picked up a flat shard and called it a plate, then put it down without a word. Miles pressed himself to my side and asked if the night knew where we were now. I told him the night was too busy to keep track of us, and he nodded like I had said a wise thing. Noah shifted, sighed, and returned to sleep, trusting the rhythm of Mother's steps. Father set the borrowed blankets on the ground, then stepped outside again to stare at the road and the empty field beyond it. He kept his back to us, jaw tight, shoulders squared against something only he could see. Once, He reached up and touched his hair like a man checking for rain. When he came back in, he paced the length of the room, 3 strides and a turn, 3 strides and a turn, carving a path in the dirt that our eyes began to follow without meaning to. Mother knelt and smoothed the floor with her palm, pushing small stones aside. "Here," she said, as if naming a spot could give it courage. She took out the folded cloth that would be our mat, shook it once, and laid it down. The sound it made, soft, certain, calmed me more than any prayer I knew. We set the pot on the table. We set the comb beside it. We set our breath into a slower pace. Wind pressed its face to the empty frames and spoke in long, low sighs. The light thinned. Shadow crept into corners and made them deeper. I felt the old house we had left closing inside me, each room going dim one by one. I thought of my bed, my little shelf, the way the curtain had danced. I let the missing wash over me, then stepped back like a wave that knew it couldn't stay. We had almost nothing, except one small thing that would outlast the dark. Mother touched her bag, feeling for it the way you touch your pocket for a key you can't afford to lose. She didn't bring it out yet. She let the moment ripen. She let the room admit what it was, broken, drafty, not enough, and still ours for tonight. "Sit," she said gently. "Rest your feet. We did as we were told." Outside, the last birds crossed the sky. Inside, we waited for whatever would make this place bearable. I didn't know its name then. I only knew that sometimes strength is no louder than a breath, and sometimes hope is smaller than a fist, and still bright enough to be seen. Mother lit the old oil lamp. A thin flame stood up to the wind. The match scratched, flared, then died into the wick's small hunger. The glass chimney was cloudy from other nights in other houses, and the metal base was dented where time had bumped it. Still, the flame rose, a narrow shoulder against the draft that slid through the broken frames. "As long as this light is on, we are together," she said. We drew close without thinking. Light made a small island on the crooked table, and our faces were part of it. The baby's breath slowed. Sophia's fingers relaxed on Mother's skirt. Caleb leaned in to see if the flame hummed. Miles hid behind my arm and peeked out, convinced the lamp knew our names. Even Logan, who watched problems like a hawk, let his shoulders loosen a little. For a moment, Father's shoulders lowered. The hard line at his mouth softened. He sat and looked not at us, but at the flame, as if it had said something he could finally hear. Then the wind remembered our names and pushed through the wall again. The flame bowed, then stood straight. Father's eyes flicked to the door, to the corners, to the night. His jaw tightened. The moment passed, but it left a mark we could hold. The flame could be small and still matter. We learned the rule that night, and I have never forgotten it. When you can't change the dark, protect the flame. Protecting it became our work. Mother moved the lamp to the center, where the gusts were weakest. Logan pressed a flat stone under the base so it would not tilt. I wiped the inside of the glass with the cleanest corner of a cloth, and the light grew clearer, wider by a hand's width. Caleb and Miles made a game of catching the breeze with their open palms and sending it away. Sophia cupped the side of the chimney when the wind grew bold. Even the baby learned to sleep with his cheek turned to the warm. The lamp told time for us. When the wick was high and bright, it was evening chores and quiet talk. When the wick lowered to a steady glow, it was stories in soft voices, and Mother's hands counting heads without counting numbers. When the wick sank low and the fire licked the last oil, it was the hour to lie down and trust what we could not see. Father sat across from it at night, the light making 2 small coins in his eyes. Some evenings he was calm and the coins were still. Some evenings they shook with the glass as he watched the door. He talked to the shadows, warning them, warning us. Mother answered with the same sentence every time. "We are together." She did not argue facts he could not reach. She pointed back to the flame. to what was true inside the room. I learned to read the lamp like weather. A steady burn meant a quiet hour. A quick dance meant a gust. A thin, whispering flame meant the oil was low and someone had to tend it. Caring for it became our rhythm. Refill, trim, wipe, shield. Like breathing. In, out, again. We ate by it, prayed by it, mended by it. The light turned the packed earth into a floor, the crooked table into a table, the broken room into a place that could carry our weight for one more night. I watched how the lamp made even Father's shadow look less sharp. It rounded the edges of things. It gave the fear a shape I could sit beside. There were moments when the wind pushed hard, and the flame leaned so far I thought it would go out. That is when all our hands went up at once, small, big, steady, shaking, to make a circle around the chimney. Warmth kissed our fingers. Soot marked our skin. The flame righted itself and climbed back to the center like a brave thought finding its words. We did not know what would come next. We only knew how to keep the one good thing alive. The lamp was our proof that light can choose to stay. But nights have ways of testing promises, and fear has ways of finding cracks. The flame would be tested, and so would we. Rust-tasting water, thin meals stretched for a baby's cry, work made from scraps. Morning began with a bucket and ended with a pot that smelled more like hope than food. Mother could turn 3 spoons of flour, a pinch of salt, and a whisper of oil into a meal that kept us upright. We learned to measure by need, not by hunger. We learned to be grateful for steam. The days were a routine of mending and making do. Logan tightened knots on our rope line and checked the door frame like a guard who didn't sleep. Sophia hummed lullabies she barely remembered. Caleb and Miles built forts from broken tiles, then sat in them like kings with empty pockets. I rinsed cloths in cold water until my knuckles burned and told Noah soft stories so he would rest long enough for Mother to breathe. Then the door slammed against the wall. He burst in, breath short, hands shaking. "Where's the big knife?" The words hit the room like a thrown stone. The lamp quivered. Sophia's humming stopped mid-note. Miles gripped my skirt and tried to hide behind my legs and his own small courage. Logan took one step toward Father, and then chose stillness, the kind that listens for danger. Mother stood up so slowly that it felt like an answer. "Walter, sit, speak." Soft voice, unbreakable spine. He didn't sit. His eyes chased things we could not see. He pulled open the cupboard, pushed aside a cracked plate, and looked under the mat as if fear could hide there. "They're coming," he said. A man in a hat, down by the road, asking about a woman with children. I saw him. Mother's hands stayed at her sides. "Tell me what you saw. Use all your words." His breath came in pieces. He looked at me, then turned away. "He knows. They always know. We have to leave now. Now." Noah woke and began to cry. A small cry at first, then bigger, the kind that asks for milk and a better world. Father spun toward the sound. Something startled in his face. His hand rose into the air with the panic, a hard reflex born from a mind cornered by shadows. Then he saw himself, the shape of his own hand in the lamplight, high and wrong. It froze there, inches above the baby's cry, as if it had touched fire. Shock ran through him like cold water. The hand dropped. He took a step back, then another, breathing like a man who had been underwater too long. "You will not touch him." Mother moved between them without raising her voice. She did not shout to be heard over fear. She stood in its way. Not him, not any of my children. We were all still. Even the wind listened. I felt the heat of the lamp on my cheek and the trembling of Miles's fingers at my knee. Logan shifted closer to Mother, slow enough not to startle a wounded animal. Caleb's lips pressed into a line he thought was bravery. Sophia's eyes filled but did not spill. Father looked at each of us, and then at the floor, as if the earth might offer a map out of his own head. He pressed his palms to his scalp and pressed harder. "I didn't mean—" The words broke. He sank onto the stool and stared at the door as if an apology might walk through it, and finish the sentence for him. Mother did not move from her place. "Sit," she said again, and this time he did. "Speak," he tried. The words came tangled in pieces, like wire that had to be unbent before it could lie flat. She waited. She asked short questions. She offered no argument, only a steady place for truth to land. The baby quieted. The lamp steadied. Our hearts did not. That night I learned how a boundary sounds when it is pure, not loud, not cruel, clear. A line drawn in love is still a line. It says who we are and what we will not become. It keeps a flame alive in a room where the wind insists. Lines can save a family, or split it. Which would ours choose? 3 soft knocks. Patricia entered with warm bread and news. She stood in the doorway with a scarf tied close, and a bundle held like an offering, her face carrying the kind of kindness that arrives without asking if it's welcome. Mother said her name like a breath she had been holding. Patricia stepped in, closed the door against the wind, and put the bread on the table. Steam rose. The room changed shape around the smell. We gathered without being told. Logan hovered near the table, not quite sitting. Sophia's eyes followed the bread as if it were a star. Caleb and Miles edged closer, their hands polite but ready. Mother tore the loaf and passed small pieces to each of us, saving the largest for Father and the last for herself. Patricia waited until our hands were warm with crumbs before she spoke. "A wall fell at the sight," she said softly. "Men died." The words landed like stones on the table. "He was trapped under bricks for hours." The room listened. Even the lamp seemed to steady so the meaning could stand without shaking. Mother nodded once, a motion that carried both grief and recognition. Logan exhaled the way he did when he solved a knot. Patricia went on. "They say he came out breathing but not whole. Since then, the nights won't let him go." She looked at Father, not with fear but with a kind of seeing that didn't demand anything. He kept his gaze down, hands clasped like a man who had lost a tool he needed to finish the day. Truth is not always relief, but it is a map. In that moment, the shape of our fear changed. He wasn't a monster. He was a wounded man stuck inside a night that didn't end. The danger we were running from wasn't on the road. It was in the memory that wouldn't stop happening inside his head. Mother passed Father the largest piece of bread. He didn't eat it. He held it like proof that something warm still existed. "Walter," she said, voice low, "you saw too much." He blinked, as if the sentence fit and hurt at the same time. Patricia reached into her bundle and set down a small wrapped sweet. "For the little ones," she said, smiling at Caleb and Miles, then tipping her head toward Noah. "And a name you can use. A doctor in town, Dr. Evans. He listens. He has helped others whose minds are still running from past storms. A doctor in town, a sister in the city, a plan shaped by 2 women and a small flame." Mother's eyes lifted at the word doctor, then at the lamp. "I have written Catherine," she said almost to herself. "If she receives my message, she can help us reach the right door." Patricia nodded. "Your sister has sense and friends where they matter. Between the doctor's hands and Catherine's way with systems, there is a path." She paused. "It may be slow. It may ask more patience than you think you have." Mother's mouth curved into the faintest smile. "Patience is the only thing I have not run out of." We ate the bread in quiet gratitude, the kind that knows food is more than food when courage is baked into it. The lamp's circle of light felt wider. Father lifted the bread at last and took a bite, as if learning again how to trust the simple act of chewing. After Patricia left, Mother folded the cloth the loaf had rested on and pressed it flat with her palm. The plan was small, but it was real. We would speak to the doctor. We would reach for Catherine. We would keep the lamp lit. We would hold the boundary and the hope at the same time. Before help could come, there would be a goodbye. Mother looked at the door, then at us, and I understood. To pull us toward safety, she might have to walk toward the dark alone. The flame flickered and stood steady, as if it, too, had decided. To keep us safe, Mother sent us with Patricia for a few days. She pressed the lamp into my hands the way you pass a secret you want to stay alive. "Keep it lit," she said. "Say the words." I nodded, though my throat felt tight. We climbed into Patricia's wagon with our small sack, the baby on my lap, and the taste of goodbye in the air. Patricia's house was small and neat, with whitewashed walls and a yard that smelled like sun. Clean water waited in a clay pot. Warm eggs sizzled in a pan. There was a table with 4 chairs and a stove that did what a stove should do. Our bodies relaxed before our minds could. We sat straighter, breathed deeper, ate slowly, and still our thoughts ran dark roads back to the pottery works. "Until Mother returns, you listen to me," I told my siblings the first morning. I sounded braver than I felt. Logan met my eyes and gave a tiny nod that made my back feel stronger. I made a list out loud. We help Patricia with the chickens. We wash our plates. We don't waste soap. We speak kindly. We keep close. Caleb and Miles agreed with quick, important nods. Sophia asked when we would go home. "Soon," I said, "the kind of soon that keeps children steady." Noah reached for my braid and fell asleep on my shoulder, trusting the rhythm of a promise. The days found a soft order. Logan stacked wood and fixed a loose hinge on the gate. Sophia learned to pinch dough into little moons, her hands remembering comfort. Caleb and Miles chased each other between rows of beans and came back smelling like leaves. Patricia showed me how to fill the lamp without spilling a single drop and how to trim the wick so the flame wouldn't smoke. She let me practice until my hands moved sure and slow. But peace is not the same as ease. At night our minds would not sit still. I lay with the lamp on a low stool, Noah's breath warm against my arm, counting the boards in the ceiling. Every creak sounded like a step. Every shadow looked like a hat. Some nights Logan woke with a start and pretended he hadn't. Some nights Sophia cried into the pillow and then said she hadn't. Caleb kept a marble in his fist, as if it could keep the dark round and harmless. Miles asked me if Mother's voice could reach us from far away. "Yes," I told him, "through this." I touched the lamp, so I lit the lamp for 6 small storms. I set it in the middle of our borrowed room and spoke Mother's line because saying it felt like standing up. "As long as this light is on, we are together." We sat closer. We breathed slower. We let the small circle of warmth tell our bodies to trust the hour we were in. When the wick whispered low, I topped the oil and wiped the glass. When the wind tried the windows, I cupped the chimney and held my hands there until the flame stood straight again. It was work I knew how to do. It was a way to love them without saying the word. Patricia watched us with eyes that missed nothing and judged no one. She put extra bread on the table without calling it extra. She sent me with a note to her neighbor for milk and came herself to the road when I took too long, pretending she needed the sunshine. She did not speak about fear unless I did first. When I did, she listened the way a good roof listens, quietly, without leaking. On the 8th day, a wagon rattled past her gate, heading toward the capital. The driver called for water. While he drank, he said he had seen a woman by the crossroads, thin and steady, speaking to a city driver about a seat. "Looked like Elizabeth," he added. "Mother seen. Hope alive." The words flew into the house and landed on the table like bright coins. We stood there around our lamp, each of us holding the same thought without saying it out loud. Would she return alone or with what we needed most? The wagon stopped. Mother stepped down, tired but standing. Aunt Catherine beside her, clear eyes, steady voice. We ran to the gate without remembering to be careful, feet loud on Patricia's path. Mother folded us into her arms one by one, counting with her hands, counting with her breath, and only then did she let herself sit. Aunt Catherine watched us the way a person reads a map before giving directions, taking in every turn, every hill, every missing bridge. She looked like the city without trying. Neat coat, good shoes, a small case that clicked when it closed. But her face was country, plain, honest, made for telling hard truths softly. "You must be Charlotte," she said to me. "Your mother says you hold the middle when the wind blows." I nodded and tried not to cry from the relief of hearing someone speak as if solutions existed. We brought them water, and the last of Patricia's sweet bread. Mother ate little, talking between sips. Aunt Catherine listened and then laid the plan on the table like pieces that fit if you did not blink. "Leave the ruins," she said. "No more nights at the Pottery Works. That place keeps his mind in the past." She opened her case and took out a folded paper with an address written in careful lines. "A small house near a clinic. 2 rooms, a yard big enough for a washing line. It has water. It has a good lock. It is not far from me." Mother's eyes shone at the words water and lock. The rest of us held our breath when Aunt Catherine said, "See a doctor who knows these wounds of the mind." She did not rush the name. "Dr. Evans, he listens before he prescribes. He will meet you, not only your fear." "Children back to school," Mother added, looking at each of us in turn. "Books again, pencils, morning bells. Even if we go slow, we go." I had forgotten how much I missed chalk on a board and letters marching into words. Caleb's eyes lit at the word bells. Sophia smoothed her skirt as if it were a uniform already. Logan looked down and then up, like a boy learning how to breathe as a man. Aunt Catherine continued, calm and firm. "We will set up 3 rails," she said, counting on her fingers. "Home that is safe, care that is steady, routine that is simple." She tapped each finger again. "And we will add 1 more, truth that is spoken. No more hiding. Hiding feeds shadows." Mother nodded. "No more hiding," she repeated, and something eased in her shoulders, a knot untied. Patricia leaned on the doorframe and smiled a small, proud smile, the kind you give a seed when it finally shows green. "You'll need help with the move," she said at once. "I'll ask Martin for the wagon. The boys can load. I'll pack the lamp with soft cloth." We laughed at that. Soft. Because of course the lamp would come. The lamp was not just an object. It was our proof of together. The plan sounded like a road you could walk with bare feet. Simple steps, one then the next. But a road is still a road, and roads lead through choices. All of it depended on one man's yes. Father had to leave the ruins with us. Father had to sit with the doctor. Father had to take the medicine that might make him feel worse before it made him feel better. Father had to trust women with a plan and a flame. We were quiet at that thought. Even the chickens paused their pecking, as if the yard were listening. Mother reached for my hand. "I will go to him first," she said. "I will say what is true and ask what is possible. If he chooses the ghosts, we will choose the children." Her voice did not shake. Mine did, but only on the inside. Aunt Catherine closed her case with that clean click. "I will wait by the road with the children," she said. "If he is ready, we move today. If he is not, we move anyway." She did not say it like a threat. She said it like a door, open, but with a frame that holds. We lit the lamp before dusk, even in Patricia's bright kitchen, and set it near the edge of the table so the light touched everyone's hands. Mother looked at the flame and then at the track back to the Pottery Works. The sky was turning the color that makes decisions. Would he choose the family or the ghosts? Mother walked back into the Pottery Works alone. We waited by the road with the lamp and the sky turning orange. Aunt Catherine kept us close, counting without counting. Patricia stood a little behind, arms folded, eyes on the broken buildings as if she could hold them still with a look. Logan rested the lamp in the wagon's shadow where the wind touched it less. I kept Miles and Caleb from climbing the wheel. Sophia held Noah, who twisted his fingers in her hair and watched the light. The place looked smaller from the road, like a bad dream that shrinks when morning comes. But we knew how big it felt from the inside. Mother's figure slipped into the doorway and disappeared. The air around us changed, thin and waiting. Every sound mattered. The rattle of a loose gate, a bird's sudden call, the soft tick of the cooling engine. Aunt Catherine hummed one low note, steady as a rope to hold. "Will she be long?" Sophia whispered. "As long as it takes," Aunt Catherine said. "Truth is not fast. It is clear, we did not move." I thought of the first night we lit the lamp, of the line Mother drew with her voice, of Father's hand stopped in midair like a shadow caught in place. I thought of the bread Patricia brought and the name of the wound, and I tried to send those thoughts through the walls toward them. Light, line, name. Time stretched, then folded. The orange sky deepened. The lamp's circle stayed small and faithful. Logan trimmed the wick without looking away from the doorway. Miles asked if the light could walk by itself to bring Mother back. "It walks in us," I said, and he nodded like he understood. 2 figures appeared, Mother and Father. A sack on his shoulder, the lamp in her hand. The way they moved told us what words could not. They were not running. They were not hiding. They were walking toward us, and the road felt shorter for it. When they reached the wagon, Father stood with his eyes on our faces, not through them. "Forgive this father who lost his way," he said. The voice was rough, and the words were simple, and they were enough to unfreeze something in my chest. Logan stepped forward first, offering his hand like a bridge. Father took it and lowered his head. Mother placed the lamp on the wagon's board, and the light touched all our wrists at once. We climbed in. Patricia pressed food into Mother's hands and murmured a blessing that sounded like common sense. Aunt Catherine clicked the reins, and the wagon rolled. We did not look back to see the pottery work shrink. We watched the road open. We rode toward a house that felt like a beginning, not an escape. The lamp rode with us, steady on the floor between our feet. Father sat with his shoulders not quite straight, but not bent in the old way. He looked at the fields, at the sky, at the children who leaned against him one by one as the ride grew long. When he reached for Noah, he did it the way a man reaches for the future, with care. The sun slipped down. The first lights of town flickered ahead like small promises. Aunt Catherine spoke of clean water and a key that turned easily. Mother spoke of mornings with a schedule and nights with fewer whispers. No one promised easy. They promised next. The wagon stopped at a gate that didn't lean. The door opened on hinges that didn't complain. Inside, the rooms were plain and enough. We placed the lamp on the table. Mother lit it and said the line that has always fit. "As long as this light is on, we are together." Help arrived with a black bag and questions that didn't hurt. "Trauma has its own clock," the doctor said. "Medicine helps. Patience heals." Dr. Evans spoke in a steady voice that didn't hurry us. He asked Father questions like he was opening windows one by one. "What did you see? When do the nights return? Where in your body does fear sit?" He listened longer than he talked. He explained that the mind can keep ringing an alarm long after the fire is out. He said the pills would quiet the alarm. The visits would teach Father how to hear the world again, and our steadiness would be the floor he stood on. When the doctor left, the house felt larger, as if his calm had pushed the walls back. Father gathered us. He stood near the lamp, not hiding in its shadow, and looked at each face as if counting mattered. "My mind protected me from a danger that is gone," he said. "It made me run from what loved me. I will take the medicine. I will meet the doctor. I will do the work. I ask for patience and forgiveness." The room held still. I watched Logan first. He had the faint line on his forehead where the brick had kissed him hard, a reminder that love without boundaries can break what it means to save. He stepped forward, slow but sure, and put his hand out. A son's hand, a father's tears, a hug that restarted time. The younger ones came after. Sophia's careful arms, Caleb's quick squeeze, Miles pressing his cheek to Father's sleeve, Noah patting his face as if to check that he was real. Mother waited until last, and then rested her palm on his back. The way you touch a wall you've rebuilt and decide it will hold. Days began to stack like bricks laid true. Mornings, medicine with water, a short walk, a note in a notebook Dr. Evans had given him. 3 lines about how the light looked, what the wind did, one thing he was grateful for. Afternoons, chores small enough to finish, a chair under the tree, quiet minutes where feeling the ground under his feet was the work. Evenings, we read aloud, each of us a page. He listened for the place where his breath wanted to run and learned to slow it down. He wasn't perfect, and we didn't ask him to be. Some nights the alarm in his head rang anyway. He would step to the door and look out too long. He would press his hands together until the knuckles went white. But the difference was this, he told us. "It's getting loud," he'd say. "I need to sit." Mother would nod, take out the little clock the doctor had given him, and set 3 minutes. We would sit with him while the fear walked past the house and chose not to come in. Under the tree one night, when the leaves made a soft roof and the lamp's glow reached us through the window, he said, "I see what I made you carry." He spoke to each of us without flinching. Logan's bruise, Sophia's quiet, Caleb's clenched jaw, Miles's need to hold onto a sleeve, Noah's startle at loud sounds, my habit of counting steps between dangers. "I can't give you back those hours," he said, "but I can carry my part now." We named courage together, and we named it correctly. Not fearless, faithful. Courage was Mother setting the lamp in the middle and saying the line that held us. It was Aunt Catherine drawing a map instead of a miracle. It was Patricia's bread placed on a poor table like wealth. It was Father sitting through 3 minutes while the tide of panic went out and left sand. School returned like a gentle tide. We learned new words, and I learned to speak the old ones without shaking. Father learned routes through the market where the clatter didn't tangle his thoughts. On Sundays, he sat in the last row until the hymn's first verse told his heart it could stay. The lamp would remain, not as rescue, but as remembrance. We lit it each evening even when the ceiling bulb clicked on just fine. The flame was our quiet agreement. We keep what saved us, not because we still live in the dark, but because light deserves witnesses. If this story touched you, write lamp or strength in the comments so I know you're here with me. Share it with someone who needs gentle courage tonight. Subscribe for more true grandma stories, because after long nights, dawn still comes.